Hello everyone, welcome back to the channel. Today we're doing a MotoGP track tier list. I wanted to do this video for a while and I think now's a good time to do it. So we have every single track on the 2025 calendar plus a few more just for a bit of fun. We're going to be ranking these tracks in these 5 tiers. From the top we have best of the best, phenomenal strip of tarmac, really fun track, good track but I wouldn't cry if it got removed, and tracks that I think should be removed from the calendar are at the very bottom. By the way, I'm basing this tier list based off of how good the racing is really. I'm not going to take into account like the atmosphere and the crowd sizes there. Because realistically, I don't care if there's good crowds or not. If a track is shit, then it should be removed. Even if there's tons of people. So I'm basing this purely off how good the racing is. And I'm going to try not to take personal bias into my experience on the MotoGP game. I'll try not to do that, but for some of these, it might just happen, okay? Now, the thing is with MotoGP is it is really hard to get a bad track for MotoGP. So that's why the tiers on this are mostly positive. There's only one tier of bad tracks really, but I genuinely think it's almost impossible to have a bad MotoGP track. Although there are a couple that will be going in this bottom tier. Anyways, I'm getting ahead of myself. Let's just get straight into this. I've tried to randomise the order of these, so we're starting with what looks like Argentina to me. Argentina, I think, is going into the middle tier. Argentina is a fun track. It's nothing special, but it's good to be on the calendar. I did miss it when we missed out on it last year. I'm hoping we go back again in 2025. It can rain quite a lot there, which always adds like an extra bit of excitement. And yeah, the last corner especially can produce some absolute chaos. I like this track. It's going in the middle tier. And so is Sepang. I'll put it ahead of Argentina. Sepang, another great track for MotoGP. The track has produced a few chaotic races recently, especially in Moto3, and of course we had that amazing battle between Martin and Bagnaia this season. Overall, it's not the best track on the grid, but once again, it's a solid middle ground, it's a fun track. Next up we have Sachsenring. Now, this might be a bit of a hot take, but I think that Sachsenring is a good track, but I wouldn't be devastated if it got removed from the calendar. It's just, I don't know, something about it I don't really like. It's one of my least favourite tracks in the game, but I said I wouldn't take that into account. It has some good races in fairness, but I think I'd just like to see MotoGP go to different tracks in Germany. I'd really like to see them go to either Nürburgring or Hockenheim. Sachsenring just really isn't one of the tracks I look forwards to most on the calendar. It's a very narrow, twisty track, which especially in the upper classes is quite difficult to overtake at, apart from near the end of the circuit. The first half the track really seems a bit of a waste really, unless you're on Moto3. I don't know, it's just not my favourite. Like I said, I wouldn't cry if it got removed, but it is a good track. Next up we have Motegi. I think that Motegi, once again, is a really fun track. It's close to going into the second tier, but it's just not quite there. I think Motegi is a very basic track. It's literally designed to be a test track, to have a bit of everything. And it's made some good races in the past, but I don't know, it doesn't produce constant bangers like some of these do, so I can't really justify putting it in the top 2 tiers. Same goes for USA really. Some races here can be amazing, but some of them could also be a bit boring. I'll also put USA in the middle tier. I think USA is one of the tracks where we see the biggest amount of grid spread across the whole race. Like, there's been quite a few races here where the leaders won by about 10 seconds. However, there have also been some really good races, and Moto3 at this track is really good. So I'll put it in the middle tier. I'll put it below Malaysia actually, but ahead of Argentina. Next we have Mugello. This is a classic. This is going in the top tier. Mugello, the races as of recent haven't been as good, but that's more because Bagnaia is just far too good at that track. That's not the track's fault. Mugello is an amazing track, and I'm going to say this for every track, but Moto3 at Mugello is amazing. I think its best bit is that massive start-finish straight, which produces an amazing slipstream. It's just perfect for chaotic Moto3 races, and it even works for MotoGP as well. If Bagnaia wasn't so good at it, we'd have some amazing races there. We've had some classic battles in the past there, like Lorenzo and Marquez, and then the race where Petrucci won his first race. Like, Mugello is one of the best on the calendar, so it's going in the top tier. Next we have Portimao. Portimao, I'm going to take a bit of the game bias into this one, is a really fun track on the game. It's a beautiful track. It's an amazing roller coaster of a track that looks amazing from the TV, and I'd love to go to it. However, the racing there not great. I wouldn't cry if this track got removed from the calendar. Like, there were rumours about Portimao being removed from the calendar for this upcoming season, and I was just a bit like, meh, I'm fine with that. I think the main problem with Portimao is it's quite a narrow track and the overtaking opportunities are minimum really. The best overtaking opportunities are really tight hairpins, which means you have to really put in a big lunge to do an overtake, which is what resulted in Marquez and Bagnaia crashing there. It's hard to pull off a good overtake there without like pushing someone off. I don't know, the races there, they just haven't been all that good, so it's going in the 4th tier for me. Assen, however, is going in the top tier and it's ahead of Mugello. Like Mugello, Assen has suffered a bit recently from Bagnaia dominance. However, that takes nothing away from the track. Assen is one of the best circuits on earth, I think. The way the track flows is amazing, and that last chicane is just built for chaos on the last lap. It is beautiful. Assen constantly produces amazing races, apart from when Bagnaia is leading, of course. But yeah, amazing track, Assen top tier. Next we have Silverstone. Now, there's going to be some British bias in this, but I do genuinely think that Silverstone is the best racing circuit on planet Earth, and is going in the top tier. The races there are constantly amazing. The 2022 Moto3 race here is genuinely the best motorcycle race I've ever seen. It is an absolute, it's beautiful for chaos. There's 2 massive straights which encourage great overtaking. There's about 5 or 6 solid overtaking opportunities here as well. And even though they've moved where the start-finish straight is, that's taken nothing away from the racing, because all 3 races this year were amazing. I love Silverstone. I'd be heartbroken if they moved back to Donington Park or Brands Hatch. It needs to stay at Silverstone. I know the attendances are a bit shit at Silverstone, but I don't care. The racing really does make up for it. I think it's the most consistently amazing track on the calendar in terms of producing a great race in every single class. So Silverstone, top of the best. I think it is the best track on the calendar and the best track in the world. Now we've got India. Of course, it was removed from the calendar last year and is set as a backup race for this upcoming season. And I'll be honest, when it got announced that it would be removed from the calendar last season, I didn't cry. So, although it was a fun race in 2023, it's going in the 4th tier. I think we do need a few more races here to decide how good the track actually is, but while it was a fun race that we had in 2023, it didn't blow me away and I didn't immediately scream out, I need more of this, so it's going in the 4th tier. Next we have Mandalika in Indonesia. We've only had 3 races in Indonesia, however, they've all been really good. I'm very torn between whether to put this in the 2nd or 3rd tier, because Indonesia, it's a great track. There's a lot of fast sweeping corners which lead to heavy braking for good overtaking opportunities. Like I say, for every track, Moto3 is chaos here and I love it. Just because we haven't had enough races here, I'm going to put it at the top of really fun track. I think after a few years I could easily move this up to 2nd tier, however, I don't think the sample size is big enough, so we haven't had much of a chance to see if you can have a bad race there. But Indonesia is a really great track and I really look forward to MotoGP going there every year. Thailand, however, we have had a few more races for, and I'm putting this in phenomenal strip of tarmac. Every race so far at Thailand pretty much has been really good. It's constantly come down to last lap battles, apart from this year really when it was raining, but the rain is just a bonus part. It makes the track better when it has the chance of raining. Thailand, I think, is a really good track for MotoGP. It's very simple, but it works so well. There's some really good long straights leading to heavy braking opportunities for overtaking, followed by a good sweeping section in the middle, all leading up to that last hairpin, which once again is beautiful for chaos. It's really good for last lap battles. Thailand, phenomenal track. Whoever designed this, well done to you. However, it's got nothing on the next track, Phillip Island. This is going straight in the top tier, behind Silverstone though. Phillip Island is amazing. I forgot just how good it was when it was missing over MotoGP for a few years, but since it's come back, amazing track. It's hard to say what works with Phillip Island, but it just works. It's just an amazing track. All the riders love it. It's most of the fans' favourite track. I think it'd be my favourite track if Silverstone didn't exist. Yeah, Phillip Island, it's great. It can rain at any time, which I always love about a track. And it's a real rider circuit. Like, this is a sort of track where you really see who's the best on the grid. Like, the bike doesn't really have much effect around Phillip Island. You usually get some phenomenal racing here, and we saw this season between Marquez and Martin. Amazing track, top tier, easily. Now we have Aragon. I think going back to the game for a bit, Aragon is my favourite track on that game. I really like it. Putting that sort of bias aside, because I said I wouldn't take that into account, I really like Aragon. I really missed it when we didn't have it in 2023. It's going in the second tier. It is a phenomenal strip of tarmac. I love the fact that the track just goes around a massive rock. There's a lot of overtaking opportunities. The massive straight leading up to the last corner is amazing. I really like it. I remember the lockdown races here in 2020 were really, really good. And yeah, it's just a great track. There's lots of overtaking opportunities. It's made great races in all the classes in recent years. I love Aragon, so it's going into second tier. It is a phenomenal strip of tarmac. Oof, now we have Sokol in Kazakhstan. Now, MotoGP has never raced here, so this is the one track where I'm going to purely base my decision off my experience on the MotoGP game. I hate this track with a passion. It might be because I'm bad at the game on that track specifically, but I just hate it so much. Let me get a picture up of what my problems are with this track. Right, my biggest gripe with this track is these two chicanes here. They just completely ruin the momentum of the track. Why do you have two chicanes just before brilliant overtaking opportunities? And the chicanes aren't even that good overtaking opportunities. As well as this, the track is annoyingly flat. It's just, I don't know, it might just be because I'm bad at it, but I hate this track. I'm so glad MotoGP isn't going there. The fact that they tried going there for 2 years in a row and haven't gone there is also really annoying and means it should be removed from the calendar. I'm glad it has. I hope MotoGP doesn't try to go there again. Some of these corners like this one and the first couple corners are alright, but this section here and these last 4 corners, I hate them so much. It just ruins the momentum of the track. I'm putting this in the bottom tier. I'm so glad it got removed from the calendar because I hate it. Next we have Misano. Misano is a staple on the MotoGP calendar. It's been there for years. However, compared to some of the other tracks who have been here just as long, it's not as good. I'm going to put it in the middle tier. I'll put it ahead of USA. Misano can have some really good races, however it's a very narrow track which makes it difficult to overtake, especially in MotoGP. We saw that this year with the main flashpoint being because Bastianini had to pretty much ram Martin off the track in order to overtake. I would be quite upset if they removed it from the calendar, however I am not really the biggest fan of having 2 races there. I hope that doesn't have to happen again this year. I'd rather any of these other tracks be a doubleheader than Misano. That being said, it's still a fun track and I will put it in the middle tier, bang in the middle at the moment. Qatar next. I think Qatar works really well as a season opener. I love seeing MotoGP under the lights. I wish we'd have more night races to be honest because the bikes look amazing under the lights. Qatar, it's a really good track for MotoGP. There's lots of good overtaking opportunities. Once again, there's a hairpin at the end of a track which creates chaos on a last lap, which, like I said, I love it. I will put this ahead of Motegi in really fun track. It's not the perfect track, I think, and I think it works its purpose best as a season opener, really. I wasn't the biggest fan when it was the penultimate race, and I think it's a bit pointless having it as the 4th race of the season in the upcoming season. However, I still like it when MotoGP goes there, and it's a good track. I would be upset if they removed it. Next we have Le Mans. I can't have too many tracks in best of the best. I'm going to put Le Mans in phenomenal strip of tarmac, right at the top. Or am I? Ooh. No, no, I'm going to put it at the bottom of best of the best. Le Mans is a really good track. Once again, it's another track where nearly every race there is amazing. Last year, I think Le Mans was my favourite race of the year because of the 3-way battle between Marquez, Bagnaia and Martin. We've had quite a few wet races there in the past, which is always fun. And I don't know, I just really like Le Mans. I've never come out of a race at Le Mans thinking, oh, that was a bit boring. Le Mans, it produces amazing races every time, so I'm going to put it in the top tier. There's plenty of overtaking opportunities at nearly every corner, really. It just works so well as a track, so it's going in the top tier. Now, this is going to be a controversial one. Austria. I'm going to put it in should be removed, and let me explain why. Let me get up the reason why, actually. This chicane, I hate it. Since they added this chicane in 2022, nearly every race has been boring. Moto3 is an exception because it's impossible to have a bad Moto3 race, but Moto2 and MotoGP, the races since they added this chicane here, have been shit. They've been some of the worst races of the season for the past 3 years. Before they had the chicane, this was one of my favourite tracks on the calendar. We had amazing last lap battles in every race, and we still hit that in Moto3, but that's sort of a given in Moto3. Now they've got the chicane, it completely ruins the momentum, and it ruins one of the best overtaking opportunities at turn 3, and it just ruins the track. I know the chicane is there for safety reasons, however I firmly believe that if you have to make a track worse in order to have it be safe on the calendar, you shouldn't have the track on the calendar in the first place. I'd so much prefer if they scrapped this off at the moment and went back to, or not even back to, if they went to like Nürburgring or somewhere, or Paul Ricard, or somewhere different, because the races since they added this chicane, it might just be coincidence, but they've been terrible. Austria, I think, either get rid of the chicane or get rid of the track, because it's genuinely become my least favourite race of the season in recent years, because the past 3 years they've been such snooze fests really. It's just so boring. Even the Moto2 races have been a bit crap, and Moto3, you're always going to get a good race there. It is genuinely impossible to have a bad Moto3 race. Also, I really hate that the corners are called 2A and 2B. Just call it Turn 2 and Turn 3, because that's what they are. I hate the chicane so much, so Austria should be removed. Remove the chicane or remove the track, that is what I think. Next we have Jerez. Now, this might be a controversial one. Some people, most people I think, would put this in best of the best. I'm not going to, I don't want too many in that tier. It's at the top of phenomenal strip of tarmac because it is a great track. However, I think compared to these races up here, it doesn't produce such consistently amazing races. I know this year the races were really good, however, I don't know, it's not every single year that Jerez produces a classic, whereas I think tracks like Le Mans, Mugello, they consistently produce classics. Jerez, amazing track though. It's a staple of the calendar and I'd be so sad if they removed it. However, it's not in the best of the best. Next we have Valencia. I think Valencia works its best as a season finale. I think if it wasn't a season finale, it'd be quite a lot lower in this list. However, it does work really well as a finale. Once again, it's got a tight overtaking opportunity at the very end, which, you know my feelings on them. And I'm going to put it above Mandalika, I think, at the top of really fun track. I wouldn't give it phenomenal. It's a very flat track, and we have, on races where there's not really anything to play for, we have had a few boring races there. I'm going to put it at the top of really fun track. Catalonia. We still got the opposite effect of Austria really. When this thing had the chicane before the last corner, I would have put it precisely here because the races there were a bit shit. However, they've got rid of the chicane and the races have become a lot better. It has suffered a bit from Bagnaia being too good syndrome, but again, that's not the track's fault. I'm going to put this in phenomenal strip of tarmac. I'd be really upset if they removed Catalonia from the calendar. I think that Catalonia is a really great track now. It really wasn't great when they had the chicane, but the races since they've removed the chicane have been really good, so it's going in the second tier. Next we have Brno. This is also going in phenomenal strip of tarmac, and it's actually going to go ahead of Thailand, and I'm going to put Catalonia ahead of Thailand as well. Brno, I really missed it when I realised it was off the calendar. I'm so glad it's coming back. The races there have been brilliant, and yeah, I just love it there. There's a constant chance of rain there as well. Brno is a really fun track, and yeah, I think it's a phenomenal strip of tarmac. Now, you might notice there's two tracks left on the calendar. We have Balaton Park and Goiânia, the new track in Brazil. I don't know how to pronounce it. These are two tracks which MotoGP has not been to yet. They are scheduled to be in future years, and I think for the last part of the video, what we're going to do is we're going to go on to Assetto Corsa and we're going to try these tracks out for themselves. Because I have no idea what these tracks are like, so I want to see for myself. Are these going to be good tracks for MotoGP? I will say, by the way, Assetto Corsa does not have MotoGP bikes in the game, so we are going to have to do this on a Formula 1 car. I'm sorry if this offends you in any way, but I'll be honest, for me, it doesn't really make much of a difference. I'll still be able to get a good, I'll still be able to work out whether this is a good track for MotoGP or not. So let's get into it then. Right, lads, I'll be completely honest as to what's happened. I've already filmed this section twice at this point. The first time I realised that OBS didn't record my gameplay properly, meaning that you couldn't see the actual tracks, it was just the loading screen. And the second time, or both times really, you couldn't hear a thing I was saying thanks to the really loud engine noises. So this is what we're going to do. I'm going to do one lap of each track of both Balaton Park and Goiânia, or Brazil, or whatever it's called. And I'm just going to talk over what I think about the track, because I've already raced these tracks about 10 times. I've already formed an opinion on what I think of these tracks, so there's no point in faking a reaction thinking, oh look, it's a brand new track. I'm not going to do that. I'm just going to show one lap of each track, what it looks like, and I'll give my thoughts on it at the end. Right, welcome to Balaton Park. I'll get up to speed and I'll do a full lap of this thing. Right, here we go. Right, this is a full lap of Balaton Park. So we got the front straight here, a very long straight, but nothing too insane, into what is a very tight, I've messed this up already, a very tight first corner, followed by another very tight left-hander. This left-hander in particular I can see causing a few ambitious dive bombs. Then quite a wide corner going into another long straight. And then this straight comes up to a chicane, which I think would be very good for overtaking. And then we've got a bit of a kink here. This bit reminds me a bit of Indonesia. And then this goes into a chicane. Very similar to the Dunlop chicane at Le Mans, I think. Which goes into a hairpin, which isn't my favourite, a chicane just into a hairpin. I prefer if the hairpin was a bit further down the road, but I'll survive with it. Then we've got a very long left-handed kink sort of straight thing. I think this is the longest straight on the track. Breaking into another chicane. And then left-hander here, and then tight left-hander to the last corner, and then little kink, and then full speed head to the finish line. That is a track at Balaton Park, and I'll give my thoughts. Let me get back to the tier list. Right, Balaton Park, I have decided I will put in the middle of really fun track, just below Sepang, above Misano. This thing has potential to be a really good track for MotoGP, I think. I don't think it's anything special, nothing stands out to me as amazing. It's a very flat track, and there are a couple sequences which are a bit annoying in my opinion. However, I think it'll be perfectly fine for MotoGP. It should produce some good racing, some good overtaking opportunities. I'm looking forward to seeing this track in action later down the line. Now time for Goiânia, or I don't know how you say it, Goiânia, from Brazil basically. Brazil is what I'm calling it. Right, and here we are at Goiânia in Brazil. Once again I'll get up to full speed and I'll show you along this track. This is a fun one. Right, here we are, a full lap at Goiânia now. Goiânia. And by the way, I know the track map is not lined up where the car is, it's annoying for me as well. Right, here we go. We've got a very long front straight, by far the longest at the track. Going into a very fast opening corner. In a Formula 1 car, I'm mostly able to take this flat out. MotoGP, I can't imagine they'll do that, but at the same time I don't think there'll be much overtaking there. However, I do think they'll be overtaking at this corner here. Very tight right-hander. Opportunity for a good late apex as well. Short left-hander into another heavy braking zone here, which I think could definitely encourage some dive bombs from certain people. Then another kink, and then a bit more of a straight going to this chicane right here, which once again could encourage some pretty crazy dive bombs. Bit of a kink out of here. Another straight leading towards the final corner, which is a bit of a double apex corner really. A bit of a hairpin. this could cause some chaos on the last lap. And flat out to the finish line, a very short, a very fast track, this one. And this track, I've had a lot of fun racing on this one. I think this has real potential to be a very good track for MotoGP. Let's go back to the tier list. So, Goiânia, I'm going to put in phenomenal strip of tarmac. I think this has massive potential for being a really good MotoGP track. It reminds me a lot of Phillip Island, and I think that is a really good thing to be similar to, because Phillip Island is amazing. If it's anywhere similar to Phillip Island, this will be a fantastic track for MotoGP. There's a lot of elevation change and there's plenty of overtaking opportunities, and if it's a short track, those opportunities will come up very frequently. So I am really looking forward to seeing this track on the calendar in 2026. I've just realised you lot didn't see me put the thing in the tier list. Where is it? Here we go. Right, Goiânia is in the second tier. Alright. And with that, that is my final MotoGP track tier list. If there's any tracks that I've missed out on this tier list, or if there's anything you disagree with, let me know in the comments below. Have I put some of these tracks too high or too low? Or do you agree with everything I've said? Probably not. Anyways, if you enjoyed this video, make sure to leave a like. And while you're there, make sure to subscribe to the channel if you want to see more content just like this. I hope you guys enjoyed this video, and I'll see you guys very soon. Bye bye.